women-owned businesses and founders are held to a standard that's not possible. And what it takes to be a CEO and to do it publicly, to stand in it and to care about it and to do meaningful work with it, the sacrifice that it takes in order to do that, right? To live on airplanes, to sleep in hotels, right? To eat out every night, to not be with your loved ones, to stay up, I can't even explain to you what it takes to do this type of work.
She just sold her company. She sat in a room full of men negotiating the biggest deal of her lifetime. Wait, she sold for how much? I can't even believe she managed to get double her valuation. Let's keep this just between us.
You guys, what is up? It is Carrie Kirpin. I am here on the Exit Whisperer, and I've been waiting for this day for a long time because I've been trying to get this guest on for a long time, even before she sold to Compass Diversified Holdings for over $385 million. I'm talking about B. Dixon, who founded the Honey Pot, which is a vaginal care company. They have everything to do with the vagina, which you'll hear about as we talk. This idea came to her, what is essentially in a dream or a spiritual moment. You'll hear all about it. And she was able to start on her own with her brother, then raised funds, got it into Target, grew it beyond that, and was able to sell. And what I so appreciate about B is her commitment to the company, even beyond and after the sale. We talk a lot about that. And I'm also so grateful to her for sharing with me the experience of being a Black founder who sells a business like this, where sometimes ingredients are questioned. Once you sell, is selling seen as selling out. Really, really thrilled to bring you her story today. She's one of my favorite people in the world because of the truth that she tells. I don't know. I've listened to her for a long time, and I just felt so grateful that she was able to be here with me today. Take a listen. Welcome, B, to the show.
Thank you for that. Such a cute little doggy.
This is Homer. He's here at our... He's very interested in learning about really the scale and
I love it.
Oh my gosh, B, I can't tell you how happy I am to have you on today. You're a visionary. You're a truth teller. You hold nothing back. I just feel so grateful to have you from my audience today. So I just want to open.
Thank you.
Saying thank you.
I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
So
thank you.
We start at the beginning. Can we?
Yeah. Yes.
So the honey pot, I want to talk about how this came to you and actually the ingredients and all of it came to you in a dream.
Yes.
Talk to me about that start, because it's wild.
Yes. So I had been literally suffering with bacterial vaginosis, reoccurring every single month for almost a year. And I tried everything you can imagine, right? I went to the doctor. I was on clindamycin. I was on metronidazole. I was on the generic, which is called Flagyl, the diflucans, the this, the that. One thing happens and the next thing happens. And then I turned to Google, right? Because I wasn't getting any relief. Medicine would make it go away, but it just would come back. So I was like, literally trying to find a way to solve the problem, which it's really hard. It's a really hard problem to solve because it's a pH problem, right? And if your pH is consistently off and you're overproducing bad bacteria, whatever's happening in your specific vagina, my one had the bacteria, that's prominent with bacterial vaginosis. For some people, it's bacteria or the candida that's prominent with yeast infections. For some people, E. coli that generates in the urinary tract, right? It just depends on who you are and what you have going on. My particular one was around bacterial vaginosis. And so it was just really hard. It was just a really hard time. And it was just a really hard time. And so then I turned to Google, which is not where you want to go when your coochie is messed up, right? And, and so then I'm like freezing yogurt inside of tampon applicators. And I'm like wrapping garlic with cheesecloth and like sewing a fucking string around it so I can pull it out. Like it's crazy, you know?
All the things you get on Google.
All the things you get on Google. And
That's like peak Google energy right there.
yeah. And honestly, for some people, they're probably getting results from that, right? It's just that they don't stay, because what you have to deal with is what are you doing on a daily basis that's causing your pH to go off.
Yep.
Most people do not realize that they should not use their body wash to wash their vulva.
Right.
Or your bar of soap to wash your vulva. It is not typically pH balanced for that part of your body. And you think because you're washing your vulva and your vagina's inside, which a lot of people don't necessarily know that either, which I'm not judging if you do or you don't, right? It's just a real thing. What you do on your vulva is affecting your vagina, right? And so I didn't know that by me using, Castile soap to wash my vulva every day, I was just throwing my pH off every single day, right? Time goes on and goes on and goes on, and nothing works. And then my grandmother came and met me one morning. I call it a dream because that waters it down and makes it feel more relatable. But I wasn't dreaming. We were there together. Wherever we were there, and she just handed me a piece of paper. And first of all, she told me she had been walking with me. She had been seeing me struggle, and she knew what to do. Can you imagine knowing what to do, but you have to find a way to get to the end? I don't even know.
You had to literally get to the other side.
Yeah.
Tell you what to do. Because I was going to say to you,
yeah,
how teaches you really how to wash your vulva? It's just unless you're really talking about this stuff, you don't know.
And Carrie, not only that, our mommies, I bet you and I are similar. I'm 43.
Yep,
right?
48.
Right. So you and I are close in age, right? In our mother's time, you still douched.
That's right. You did.
So
freaking in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. So when they told us about cleaning our vulvas and our vaginas,
that's right.
They were douching.
That's right.
They were using kind of conventional vaginal care products. I remember my mom had me use Norforms. My mother talked to me about this stuff. It's not that she didn't, right? It's just that she talked to me from the state of the set of data that she was given, or that she had throughout her life that she learned, but that doesn't necessarily make it right. You know what I mean?
Grandmother from the other side.
Yes.
So.
Yes. So she handed me a piece of paper and it had a list of ingredients. And she told me that basically this was going to solve my problem, but I needed to remember what was on the paper. And so I just kept repeating the ingredients over and over and over again. Felt like I said it 100 times. And then she said, wake up. And then I woke up. And then I literally woke up saying apple cider vinegar, rose, lavender, coconut oil. I woke up saying the list, And so I was like, shit, I need to write this down because I'm going to forget, And so I wrote it down. But there was no way that I could forget because I said it a million times when I was sitting there with her. You know what it was like? You remember when you were a kid and you acted up in class and the teacher made you write on the board 100? That's what it felt like, But I wasn't in trouble. She just wanted me to lock it in, I did it. I wrote it down. Me and my mom lived together at the time. I went in the room, told her what happened, told her what the person looked like, because me and my mom looked very much like my grandmother, even though my grandmother passed and my mom was young. So I've never met my grandmother except for this moment, And so, yeah, it's wild. And so yeah, I went to work. I worked at Whole Foods. I bought all the stuff. I went home. Maybe the next day, I made myself a wash. I didn't know what I was going to make, but it turned into a wash. And I started using it within 4 to 5 days of using it because I had BV at the time. Literally, it vanished. The thing that I noticed first was the odor. Because the odor I had was, it was bad. It was bad. It was like arm.
I'll relate. Any woman who's listening to this podcast relate to this. Okay. So you saw the change. So you make it for yourself. So how do you go? I know you did it on the side for a while, right? How do you go okay, this helped me to, I want to help others on the side to it becoming what it did?
I mean, it was right away that the day that I realized that it had worked, literally I was going pee and I had smelled myself.
Yep.
Because it was just something I did. I mean, I still do. I'm sure all of us do it. And I was like, oh shit, it worked. And I didn't have any discharge. And for those few days, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just using the product and feeling good and wasn't even thinking about it. And then it occurred to me that I wasn't thinking about it when I thought about it every single day, every time I went pee. Think of every time you interact with your vulva or your vagina. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so the moment that I realized it worked, I was like, this is what I do now. You know?
You had to bring it to the world.
Yeah. I was like, if this can work for me, this can work for other people, you know? And then gave it away for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Because we had to make sure that it worked. Like it just because it worked for me didn't mean that it was going to work for other people, you know? So since the beginning of our business, we've always been a test and learn type of company. You know, we've never just put something out into the world. You know what I mean? You know, I would make the product. I would have customers at the store that I would, you know, my team would send them to me if they had a vagina problem. I would walk them to the register. I'd talk to them. I'd like wait for them to check out. And then I'd walk them to their car because I didn't want to be trying to talk about what I did inside of Whole Foods. I felt like that wasn't okay, you know? And so I would walk them to the car and then I'd be like, hey, I wanted to walk you to the car because I wanted to let you know I make this product and this is my, it would be just like a quick, like 2-second elevator pitch. And I would just be like, you know, I have this product and I had BV for almost a year and I was able to figure it out on my own. And, you know, and I would give you the product. All I want you to do is just try it. Right. It may not work for you or it may, but I don't want your money. I want your feedback. Right.
Wow.
And then, you know, and so did that for a year and a half, met all kinds of, you know, I'll say women because all those people went as women.
Yeah.
And, you know, some people were using it on their daughters. Some people just was just like, oh, that sounds cool. Didn't have any issues and was like, hey, I want to try it. Right. Some people were dealing with the same stuff I was dealing with, you know, and it was remarkable. Like people would be like, I can use water sometimes. I can just use water to wash myself. Some people would be like, I can wear satin panties again. Some people, I mean, it was wild, right?
So
you
you get
know,
all the feedback, and then how are you able to, like, I'm just picturing you. You
$12 an hour at working at Whole Foods.
so working at Whole Foods.
My brother is a CPA and he was doing his thing. So I went to him for help.
Right.
And then I asked him to partner with me I basically begged him to partner with me. And then he would like give me a credit card in the beginning. And because he was just kind of like, take something so you don't have to keep coming and talk to me. Because his business was growing, right?
He had a business.
Yeah, and he was an accountant. Like he didn't have no fucking time to be talking to me about my little thing I was trying to do. He gave me a credit card. I mean, obviously, like, you know, as the years went on, we became co-founders and he gave like his business and all that. But like he gave me a credit card and I would just buy the ingredients with it that I would give the product away. And then I met somebody, or I don't know if it was somebody, one of his friends or who it was, but we met somebody and they were like, you should go to the Bronner Brothers hair show. Efren, the guy's name is Efren. And somebody introduced us to Efren, you know, and I literally got on my hands and knees and I said, Sai, we have to do this. And he was like, B, like, we do not have the money to do this. Like, it is going to cost a lot of money to do this. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I just really feel like we have to do it. And that was where we launched Honey Pot. He pulled together $20,000.
You put like a booth. You had to do like a booth.
We had to do a booth. We had to do a banner. You know, we had to do like a setup. We had to make product. We had to buy bottles, caps, labels, ingredients, set up an assembly line. He had like gotten these like cute like boxes and we sprayed Honey Pot over it. So it kind of looked like a farmer's market. And then we displayed like coconuts and apples for like apple cider vinegar and roses and it was cool, you know? And we went to this show. We went to Bronner Brothers. We took 600 bottles and we sold out. And that's what told us we had something. But again, we needed to test and learn. My thing was, I told Sai, if this doesn't work, I will never bring this to you again, ever. I will never ask you about it again. But I just feel like it's going to work, you know? And it worked.
So now at this point, Is this the point where you start to realize that you have to raise funds, or are you doing?
No, actually. No, actually. Because I would tell Cy that we needed to raise money, and he would always say, we don't need to raise money.
Okay.
He would be like, this is not the time to raise money because we don't have anything to raise money for. Right. And he was right. Honestly, you should never just go out and just raise money because you have a business idea. You have to make sure that the thing is actually going to work.
Yep.
It's irresponsible to ask somebody to invest in a thing when you haven't even figured out what it is or if it's going to work, or it needs to tell you what it is, right? And so we launched a website. We would continue to do hair shows, conventions, farmers markets, any trade shows, anything that we could get in front of tens of hundreds of thousands of people over a weekend, right? So and mind you, we're all still working full time.
Yep.
Right, which is wild.
Yep.
And so we just were thugging it. Like we did that for a couple years. Then we were like, hey, we need to probably bring in some other products, because if we're only going to sell feminine washes or vulva washes, right, then we're only getting a customer back every 4 to 8 weeks based on how they use their product, right? And back then the bottles were a little bigger, so they lasted longer. So then we brought in like pads and, and wipes, and we just wholesaled with other companies, and we brought them in because we wanted to understand the behaviors of our customer. What do they actually want from us? You know what I mean? And what we found was that they actually wanted to buy all of that from us, which told us and me, I started to realize, why hasn't any brand just taken on the vagina?
Right.
Right? Like all the way.
Right. Right. Not since the days of the douche.
Yeah, like
not since the Summer's Eve days of yesteryear.
Yeah.
Be taking on the vagina.
Right. But like, thank God for Summer's Eve. I'm so grateful for them. I love you. Right.
But it was time for it was time for something.
It was time for something new. But also, I mean, look, there's people out there that live and die by Summer's Eve and Vagisil and all the things, right? And I definitely believe that we make a very beautiful product that, I'm going to say the word superior. I don't mean it with disrespect, but it's just the truth.
I agree.
Products,
I agree.
But I'm also grateful for them because they created the market for us to be able to come in and play.
That's right.
And there isn't,
wouldn't have known you.
Exactly. And so we need Summer's Eve just the way that I think the Summer's Eve needs us, right? Like I definitely believe that there's enough space and business out here for all of us. My point was that I was driving at was like, I didn't understand why there wasn't a brand that made pads, that made tampons, that made, treatments or natural treatments, that made washes, that made wipes. Nobody had ever done that before.
That did it all around the vagina. Really? Yes.
Nobody had done that before. And now I understand why people don't do it, because there's so many different regulatory systems and it's hard to do. But I think that it's necessary to do, because I think that if you can get a human to trust you, right? If they trust you and your abilities and your formulating and the way that you go about business and the way that you treat them and the way that they treat you, and you have a relationship, I truly believe that making the things that they need is going to create a really successful business.
Absolutely. This is what I love about you. I mean, I've read everything under the sun about you, learned so much about you. For me, you're such a visionary with product. Like that's what I think at one point you said you had like 10 years of products down the line in your head. Like, that's where your superpower really was. I know you have a lot of them, but like that's so incredible that you were always thinking 3 steps ahead of what product was next. And the way you told that it just reminded me of that, because it's so true and it's so beautiful that nobody really owned the ability for full care of the vagina. We're setting out to do that.
Exactly. And so then that then told me the purpose of what Honey Pot is and why we are and what we have the ability to do. I remember having with one of our other co-founders who, isn't at Honey Pot anymore. She's gone on to just living her life and live a beautiful life. But I remember me and her talking, and she was like, if you could pick any retailer in the world, who would it be? And I was like, Target. And I'm telling you that 8 weeks later, we get an email from Target, which is
like a cold email, like
a cold email, which is wild.
Oh,
they reached out and she had heard about us through her hairdresser because her hairdresser met us at one of the hair shows that we went to. And it took us a year to work on that deal, and we had to do everything that everybody else has to do. But we were able to launch in Target in 1,100 doors with our normal and sensitive wash and wipe. And but prior to Target, we didn't have wipes of our own, right? But when we went in Target, we actually formulated our own line of wipes, and we had our washes already. And then within 6 months of being in there, they allowed us to cut in our pads, which was remarkable because that was the first time that any brand had ever crossed the aisle.
Right.
Right.
That makes complete sense to me now. Like that. Right. Because they're marketed almost as different categories, even though
they are
sneakily. Right. But like of your body. That's, oh my God. So wait, is it when you got into Target, was that when you had to realized you had to fundraise?
That was the moment. Cause I would always say to Sai, we got to fundraise. Cause we were making, a little money. We were making not a lot, but we went from making like $0 to $30,000 to $240,000, and I was like, well, we're doing something. And he was like, D, this isn't, calm down, like it's something, but it's not what you think, And so then when Target came, that's when he was like, now is the time that we raise money. And so that was when we went out to fundraise.
So how did you approach that, handle that? I mean, it's a ugh.
Your guess is as good as mine. Shit.
Ugh.
We fundraising is really hard. Especially when you have never done it and you have never even seen the amount of money that you're trying to ask for, and you've never even like fathomed, not that I hadn't fathomed it because I had like wrote myself a check.
Yes, of course.
For $1 million and put it on my ceiling so I could look at it every night before I went to bed. But it was hard. I mean, we were lucky that Sai was a CPA. So that gave him access to a lot of high net worth individuals and, or at least relationships. So that, so that was really what we used, right? We had family. So it was actually really like a family and friends round, like a proper one with real family and friends. So we raised then, and then we just we're running our business. But the funny thing is the amount of money we raised literally only covered branding and getting to shelf. That was it. It didn't cover anything else. And we had no idea what the fuck we were doing. We didn't know.
Right.
I was marketing operations. I was like everything, He was CFO. Linda was CMO. Like it was like the little company that could, Kelly eventually came in, running sales, but it was wild, the first round was grueling because we were literally raising money to pay bills.
Right.
We had, and when you're desperate like that, people take advantage of that.
They do. Do you feel like you avoided being taken advantage of, or
No, absolutely not. No. We were definitely taken advantage of.
Yeah. You let it. But yeah, it's always, especially first round. I always say like first round or first exit or first that you learn, through that.
You learn, yeah, and that's what it's there for. It's all good.
Yeah. Okay, so second round, and you're growing, and
yeah, we're
think of you as Target. Like that's synonymous. Yeah. Belongs there.
Yeah, because that was our first partner, right? And yeah, so we're growing. All kinds of shit is happening. Oh, it was so hard. It was so hard.
Yep.
And I finally quit my job, come be with Honey Pot full time. Then maybe like I think it was like 2017 is when we raised with New Voices Fund.
Yep.
Richelieu and his family had just sold Sundial brands to Unilever, and that gave, then that created the opportunity for them to start the New Voices Fund. And so then we raised with them, we went on tour with them, we did the whole thing, and and so they were kind of our first like technically institutional investor.
Right.
And Cy and I had been out on the road trying to raise money prior to that, right? It's just really hard,
Really?
Yeah. And then we just kept going and growing, and I mean, and it just keeps flowing, and then you got to raise money again. Like, it's, as founders of the business, like, that became our job, right? Like, that's just the way that it goes.
It becomes as much about fundraising as it is.
Oh, hell yeah, it has to, because you have to keep the lights on. And then
crazy thing people don't realize, like, you
yeah,
brand, and then you just have to constantly fundraise to keep.
Yeah, especially in the beginning days, because you're not as profitable. You're not making, your margins aren't great because you're only making so much product. The bigger you get, the better your margins get. The more that the business can support and grow itself. But it takes money in order to like be able to facilitate and do that. You can't. And for us, it wasn't easy for us to get business loans or anything like that, because you actually have to have resources, finances, assets in order to get a business loan, right? So it's just, there's so many crazy loops and turns with it, but it's beautiful. It's hard, but it's beautiful.
Crazy, hard, long journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, talk to me about when you decided that it was time to sell.
It was just the right time. I mean, first of all, when you raise private equity money, because our next investor after New Voices was VMG.
Yep.
When you raise private equity money, the clock turns on.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that's just how it goes. When you sign that deal, you're saying within 4 to 5 years, you're going to be able to see a return on your investment. It was better to do it when it was on our terms than to be in a situation where it's not.
Yeah.
I think it was also just the right time. I feel like we knew that it was going to be an interesting time, kind of post-COVID.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of dynamics that go with it, right? We were able, when we first got with them, they gave us the 800 questionnaire that you have to make sure that you have filled out. It's not just a questionnaire. It's like, how are y'all your regulatory stuff set up? How's this set up? How's that set up? You have to have data rooms. You have to have all this stuff built before you can even think about even looking in the direction of having some sort of acquisition. And so, like, from the moment that we started with them, which was powerful, which made them very powerful partners for us, because from the moment you start with them, they're getting you ready.
Yep.
Right. And they're partnered with you to help you get ready, because they know you have no idea of how to get ready. Right. But it's what they do. They know how to get you ready. They know how to build businesses. They know how to scale them, grow them, and they know how to sell them. Right. And so I think it was just a combination of a lot of things. It's not just one thing. It's also the dollar amount. Like, once you get to a certain dollar amount, you really need to start thinking about what your next move is, because you don't want to be so big. It depends on the market that you're in, right? Like, if you're in skincare, like beauty, those multiples are higher.
Right.
Right. So maybe you can go out a little earlier, but if you're in paper or just certain industries, the multiple might be like 3 or 4x, right? And you just have to know who the players are, right? Because there's only so many players that are going to acquire a vaginal wellness business, So there's just a lot of factors that go into play. It's not just like one decision. You really are like really playing chess to figure out when it's the right time, when it's the right season. You're getting out into the world. You're doing fireside chats. It's not a game. Like, you're in it,
So it sounds like once you took in the private equity investment, you knew there was a timeline, right?
Oh, yeah.
taking the money. That's every expectation. PE comes in, and it sounds like overall you were happy with that decision to take them in because they helped get you ready.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the point, sister.
Yeah.
The people that invested in us within our family and friends round, they weren't just giving us their hard-earned fucking money that they had saved up their entire life to just like be chilling and just wait as 20 years later to like, no, the moment you take a dollar of somebody else's money, it is now your responsibility to return on that investment.
Right.
And for the people that came in the beginning, you want to return on that investment 100-fold. You understand what I'm saying? So like the moment that happened, that told us that we were going to have some kind of event in the future. Were we privy to what that event would be then? No, we didn't know as much as we knew years later, but like that's okay. But that's the other thing about why being a steward and being responsible with when it's time to raise money is important, because you don't need to just be asking people for their bread or institutions for their bread when you aren't even centered yet on what's going to happen in the future.
And you have a responsibility to do your best.
You do.
On that damn investment.
Exactly. Because I mean, you have to be responsible. You have to care about their money more than you give a fuck about yours.
That's right.
Right? Like the moment that we went into retail, they became the most important over our own website, over everything else.
That's right.
Why?
You.
Because they've given us the real estate of their shelf, and we have to put that first, right? Like that's the thing that you have to have and know that really can't be taught, right? Like I don't want to say it can't be taught, but you have to have an inner knowing of that, in my opinion.
I think it's what separates a lot of successful people from folks who just raise and it falls apart. It's the commitment to like do everything you can a return for who invested in you in the first place. Okay, so I like the concept of, so P comes in. Do you own, by the time you're getting ready to sell, are you now a minority owner? Do you absolutely. So you get they fund it now at this point.
I still have a good amount of ownership, but by the time anybody gets to around B, around C, like like
watered down. Yep. Yes. Okay. So it's then time to pick the proper acquirer. I heard, you tell me if I'm wrong, you did not pick necessarily the one that was the most money. It was the one that was the best fit and the best fit for Honey Pot.
It was the best fit for us. Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
We could have went out for the money, but I think if we would have went out for the money, it would have been a different outcome within the business.
Yeah.
It would have been a different outcome for our team. It would have been a different outcome for how we do business and how we make products and you understand what I'm saying? We wouldn't have had control over those things. And being that with the partner that we did, that means that we still are working towards finding Honey Pot a final home. So what we did is no different from what Sundial did when they went, who was Sundial's PE firm that they went with? I can't remember it off the top of my head, but they went PE first, and then you go, right, you raise a good amount of money, you get a lot of your investors whole, and then you go out with one investor, and then you actually have a sale. Same thing Mael did, I think, with El Catterton or somebody like that, right? They went with a private equity partner, and then maybe a year or two later, they actually went and found themselves a home, right? It's no different than what any other business does, frankly. I mean, it happens all the time, right? I'm just speaking to the businesses that have of humans of color, right? Because we're in this middle place before it's time for us to find the real home, because we still have some growing to do before we do that, right? Because we're in this place, finding a partner that really trusted our vision, that would allow us to maintain our team, to be in control of our team, to be in control of our processes, to be in control of how we go to market, just for us to be able to maintain that as a business, we needed a partner who wanted to invest in us. That does not mean that they're not involved. That does not mean that they don't make decisions. That doesn't mean that. They absolutely do. I mean, it's mostly their business now. But what it does mean is that they have entrusted our vision and how we want to move forward, and they're giving us the ability to do that. Right now, if we would have went any other way, it would have been a lot more money, a lot.
Yeah, it would have been the final stop.
But it would have,
Yeah.
It really would have been the place where, not that Honey Pot would have went to die or anything, but it just would have been the place where it just would have been different, and that just didn't feel right for us. And it doesn't mean that those partners wouldn't have been good partners, because I'm sure that they would have been. It just didn't feel like it was the right time. And being that I'm still heavily invested in this business and me and Allie are still the leaders of this business, we have to be responsible to this business. This isn't just about, we don't just do this for money. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have real reason and real, like, this shit is just real to us. It's not a game. It's not, we don't just put liquid in bottles. We actually care about the people that we serve. We respect them. We honor them. We love them. We're grateful for them. We have a relationship with them. Until we find the final home for Honey Pot, we need to be the stewards of that. And even when we find the final home of Honey Pot, right now we're just focused on building our business. We're not focused on that. But even when that does happen, the decision will still be made from this same premise.
I want to ask you about that, because you talked a little bit, and some of the founders that you mentioned, like with Sundial and Miel, you talking about humans of color. And one of the things that I have definitely heard on this podcast is some of the disappointment from specifically the Black community when a Black founder sells, because, well, the ingredients are related. Did you experience any of that kind of pushback? And I feel like you addressed it head on before, but I might be making that up. I feel
No, we did, because we had gone viral. People had said we sold. It was ridiculous. We sold to like Sony or some weird shit like that. We would never sell to Sony. They're a appliance company. Historically, it can be hard in the Black community when companies that you've built and created and have invested in go off and have an acquisition and get bought out by a strategic, and maybe the strategic makes changes, or they don't allow the company, the leadership team in the company that's running the company, to continue to do that. A lot of times in that instance, which is why it's really important for there to be a meaningful transition period, right? I'm saying all this not to just tell all of our business, but just so that people can understand the why these things are important. The reason why it's important to have such a meaningful transition period, and also one that allows you the space to kind of run independently as a business. That doesn't mean that you don't tap into the strategics and what they have to offer, because that's part of why you go with the strategic, right? Is because you want to tap into some of their resources. It just makes more sense. They have more resources. They're global billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar companies, right? You want to tap in when you can plug into that kind of a source. That's powerful, because that gives you resources globally, right? That allows you to potentially turn into being a multi-billion-dollar brand, right? So that's powerful. But sometimes when that happens, they don't do that.
right.
And they go in and they make changes, and they don't necessarily transition properly. And then what can happen is they change the formula, and now it's different, and now it doesn't feel right. They change a marketing campaign, and now it's not speaking to the people that help to build it, right? So, like, I understand how people feel when they feel like when you sell, you've sold out. But the thing is, even though I understand it, the narrative shouldn't be that, because a lot of times what happens is Black founders are held to a standard that is impossible. And not only humans of color, but also women are held to a standard. Women-owned businesses and founders are held to a standard that's not possible. I remember when the CEO of Glossier said that she wanted to step down as CEO. I mean, people dragged her through the mud like she wasn't shit, not even realizing that she had committed many, 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 many years and what it takes to be a CEO and to do it publicly and to stand in it and to care about it and to do meaningful work with it. The sacrifice that it takes in order to do that, right? To live on airplanes, to sleep in hotels, right? To eat out every night, to not be with your loved ones, to stay up, I can't even explain to you what it takes to do this type of work.
Right.
The depths and the places that you have to pull from to make it happen. You understand what I'm saying?
Not only do I understand what you're saying, one of the things that I think is so incredible is how deeply invested you still are in the company, despite having, raised this much and had this type of exit and all that. You're so deeply committed.
But sister, I have to be. I mean, this is my work.
I know.
This is my work. And, a part of when you do a deal like this, they don't just let a founder just cash out 100%.
That's right.
They're like, you need to come along for the ride. We need your investment too. If we're going to invest this much money, then you got to invest the money. It's a choice. It's my calling. I feel like this is part of why I was put on this planet. You know what I mean?
So you're invested. There's like financially invested, right? Like when a founder exits and they have to invest, they have to be there. There's part of them that has to be there. But I'm looking at you and you're really invested in.
Oh yeah.
They're very lucky. And it's
I'm grateful. I mean, we are too.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a good partnership. It does.
It is.
I guess my question for you, we talked before a little bit about how I work in exit planning for women and do all that. And we say like, it's such a deep area of need. I guess my question for you is, what do you wish you knew? Like along the way, what do you wish you knew as you were heading towards the back half of this journey? Not even the start, but the back half.
Just to enjoy it, just fucking enjoy it. Don't rush it. Just that doesn't mean that you're not moving. That doesn't mean that you're not executing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying slow down and be lazy about it. That's not what I'm saying. But like, if you can be a business that's around for 10 plus years, then you got something. You don't want to just go out into the world and just be insanely fucking successful.
Yeah.
Right. Because that can also get you too big for your britches. That can take your ego to a place that that's not sustainable, because success isn't always. Success should look like this,
You're saying essentially to find the joy in the struggle, like the whole journey of it.
Yeah, just enjoy it and respect it. Respect the good times, respect the hard times. Let the hard times show you how good the good times are, because they have to happen. Bad shit has to happen. That shit is good lessons for us. It keeps us on the ground, and and if there was anything to learn, it would be that. Now I wouldn't change anything for the world. We've gone through a lot of hard things. My brother and I and this team, we've gone through a lot of hard things together, and we always get through it because we want to, but that's what I would say. Enjoy it and take care of yourself.
Yes. Take care of yourself for sure. B, I so appreciate you coming on the Exit Whisperer today. I feel like it's a breath of fresh air, and I so appreciate it. And
thank you
on all that you've built.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.